Good morning. It's August 30th, 2019, and this is actually for regular readers. And I originally was going to write this, but I think it's actually going to be easier for me just to talk it through. This is, I kind of engaged in a spontaneous inventory of the work product of the Rick blog and where it's going and what it's doing. And I think that there's more. I want to give a little bit more clarity to you, the reader, to see, and the listener, viewer, whatever, uh, in how you should engage this. But periodically in the doing of this blog, which seems to have begun, you could say the starting date was either 2011 or 2015. So this is a process thing. So this is really for regular readers. Although I think it would be a useful thumbnail for anyone who wants to engage with this blog and blog. What happens in really kind of an unconscious way is that periodically there are projects that develop, that are choices that are made and then lead to some kind of editing process and some sort of organizational process. So the most recent one, and I'm going to try to do these in a quasi reverse order, but it's not exactly going to be a reverse order. But actually, I should say the second most recent project was there was a kind of a break and a transformation in my writing this year, that the writing came in a quasi-poetic style. And you could say that writing had a poetic quality, but in reality, it was spoken word. And it's fine to read it, by the way. I mean, I think spoken word can be a written form. But that's the way it was written. And actually, I have to tell you, the way that started was, it was just easier. I mean, I could work faster because I was just representing on the page the talking to you that I had in my mind. So, and the best of that spoken word stuff, which is from 2019, the best of that is from approximately August the 6th to maybe August the 26th on the Rick vlog, which is delivered on the Rick blog. So it's like all the videos there is like, that's really was picking out the good stuff, and actually it was a pretty good run because most of that writing I liked quite a bit. And it was picking out the good stuff, and then if you've been watching these videos at all, you know that I just read the stuff, right? So nothing fancy. I want to point out, actually, when I say that, I want to point out one non-project. For a while, I was doing podcasts, first at a studio, which was just, I don't know. I mean, I thought kind of had no value except it got me started on some sort of delivery besides the written word. This is going back a couple of years. And then I did podcast independently myself, and there was all this crap, sound effects and a feeling like this is when I was still sorting out the difference between art and show business, and which is the theme one of the themes of my writing, but in a real way. And I mean, I really like this video format because it's just the writing, it's just the thoughts and all the bullshit, the waste of, just a waste. So that's a non-project. I mean, if you look on the blog, you're going to see a lot of these podcasts, and I would ignore them. I think they're just basically rough drafts. So I guess I'm not going in a chronological order because that goes back a couple years. But I will say something that goes back a couple years, which I'm going to mention next. I December 1st, 2017, I did a stage show. I called it. It was basically a reading with improvised wraparounds, and I put a lot of work into the organization of that material and that script. And I would say that's one other project that I did, and the things that have dropped away since then is like I had a director. Nothing against him. He added nothing. As a matter of fact, he was a detraction. He was something for me to overcome. He wasn't helpful at all. Again, I'm saying not against him, but he had all these theatrical ideas and he had all these showbiz ideas that I could really give a fuck about. Really, it's like I'm a writer and I read it and I speak it and everything. And writers do that; they give readings. But that's that, and there is a video, but there is if you just listen to the audio portion of that show, that's basically it, and that's a polishing of a lot of material, and I think that was a pretty good piece of work. I haven't looked at it in a while. Usually you look back and say I would change this or that. I think the main conceit about that piece was that there was an interaction going on between my personal experience and social commentary, political commentary about what was going on at that time with Trump, which has just gotten worse, And then another project that I did in 2019, which I believe you can find it somewhere on the blog, but you can also go directly to my website. It's www.richardthomasjd.com. richardthomasjd.com. And it's a website that was put together, had good web designer do the visuals, but there's a lot of content in it. And there's a page for the blog. So in that sense, it's up to date. There's a media page and descriptions of my teaching and everything, and that actually took several months, and that's really kind of it's a different kind. All writing is autobiographical. It's kind of specifically representing me as a teacher, right? So it's about my teaching in that sense. So I think that I think really that's a good piece of work, So that's another project. So what have we talked about so far? We've talked about the show from 2017. We've talked about Ignore the Podcasts. We've talked about the videos from 2019 of the spoken word, the spoken word pieces, which really represent a lot of the writing. You can also look at the writing in 2019. I don't know exactly when it started, maybe in April or whatever, because there was a gap where I was really focused on that website. So there actually wasn't a lot on the blog. So, but this stuff has been very good. But I also feel like I'm going into something new now that I don't exactly know what it is. So it's like they're not chapters exactly because they're different pieces of work. I mean, this inventory, this stuff could actually be broken down into different pieces. So we have the spoken word pieces. What have I talked about so far? The spoken word pieces. Don't look at the podcasts. The show from December 1st, 2017. Listen to it. Don't bother looking at it. It's a terrible video, but but that piece, the content, the writing, that's a piece that is really important. Then I found in the last few days, uh, I think the last one I put up was August the 28th. I put up 3 videos that came to about over 2 hours in total, and they were just the introduction to this manuscript that I have, the Ethical Presence manuscript, which I actually wrote um, and used to a minor extent when I was at UIC, that I used in classes, and I wrote it after I had done this teacher's voice workshop, but also used a lot of the writing from the blog, a lot of the writing from the blog itself. And I'm contemplating continuing to put up videos from that manuscript, because that actually becomes a different piece. I mean, I read the manuscript, but I also improvise off of it. I don't know. I read it and I speak off of it. Starting to think, improvise. It's like, you know, yeah, I'm a writer, you know, but anyway, so the videos become something else again, and I think they've been pretty interesting. So there's that, and then there are other pieces. Uh, there are other pieces in the blog that I still have to pull out, and I'm sure I'm going to find something else. Then there's a lot of pieces that are good, but are more just like blog posts. So the you know, because the Rick blog is not a blog in the traditional sense of, like, I'm just stating my opinions, and I mean it's a means of self-publishing and self-producing. Because I feel like, a guy, like I'm in a movie about some guy who's in deep space and he's lost radio contact with the Earth. So he makes these videos and he writes this stuff down, and just marks it all and sends it out there. So so there's other things in there too, but a lot of it could be just, and then of course there are just the pieces that really aren't any good. So there's some pieces that just don't work. There's some pieces that don't work as anything beyond written in the moment. But it was kind of interesting, because I was looking over that manuscript today, uh, that Ethical Presence manuscript, because, as I was saying, I'm contemplating doing more vlogs about it, and I saw, like, there were things in there that were referring to things that are now dated or out of the news, but I think they work, because it is like, though it's not the same thing, but it's like, when you look at a textbook, and the textbook has case studies, and they talk about all these different case studies. Well, the case studies don't have to necessarily be completely current. And I think the nature of the writing is because I'm using all these, at the time, current events to make more general and universal points. I actually think that manuscript still works, and there's a lot of good stuff in that manuscript. And I think probably I'm going to go through the whole thing and commit it to vlog material. So I think that's it. I hope you forgive me for thinking out loud like this in front of you. Um, there's the spoken word pieces of 2019. There's www.richardthomasjd.com. There's kind of the overview, the teaching biography of that. There is the show of December 1st, 2017, which is really which was really a polishing of the best material and putting it into some coherent thematic uh, whole of a period. Uh, and there's the Ethical Presence manuscript. So these are ways that you can start seeing this the blog, the vlog in context. It's not just one thing after another, but it also isn't the execution of a plan. I didn't set out to come up with these things. I just these projects. I didn't set up and say I'm going to do this and that. I didn't have an outline and then follow it. I'm following what I call improvisational writing. I'm following this path, but then it just, these are the things that have emerged. And I actually was quite pleased to realize this, to have discovered it. So it's a very interesting, the creative process is very interesting because of course I did it. I wrote it and everything, but I look at it like somebody else did it. And now, this morning is just a morning of realizing the productivity of this work. And I'm quite proud of it. I mean, it's very productive and it's good work. It's good work. I can look at things that I did a couple of years ago, and I can look at it and say, well, I think this has value, and I still think it's good. So, that's where all that is at, and I'm also going to add this because this is this is apart from laying out, the various projects and what I've been doing. But I really, I will continue to do this work and do it on broader platforms whenever I get the opportunity. And I am open, of course, to any opportunity to do it on a broader platform. And I am also open to other work to help financially sustain this work, as long as the situation is respectful to me and it's not soul denying. So if it's a positive enterprise and that I'm treated well, have to be treated well and to be respected, that is something that I am very actively looking for. It's interesting. The more you the further along that you go in art, in a strange way, the amount of limitation that you have with your engagement in the external world. I mean, there are certain jobs and situations that I just can't I can't do anymore because they would be completely destructive to my work. You know, for example, I don't think I ever would have done the writing that I did this year if I wasn't out of UIC, because I don't think I don't think I would have had the independence, I think it just made my voice stronger. And my voice gets ever stronger. It's like when, it's like the recognition that I'm an alumnus of Second City, but I am not of Second City. I don't do what Second City does. Okay. I have an improvisational background, but I have nothing to do with IO. I had the business idea uh, to teach this to high level professionals, and I can't work with them because, first of all, they're not respectful. They treat me as a vendor. They say they're going to do things. They don't do it. They don't get back to me. And also, they're not involved in positive enterprises. And I've written much better about this. I mean, they actually do things that harm other people, and they pay lip service to wanting more humanity and mindfulness and whatever they call it, blah, 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 within their professions, but they don't really want to devote time or energy to it. So it can't be with them. So I really don't know who it's going to be. Just like I don't know the next thing I'm going to write, or the next collection of things that's going to develop into a project. But that's the current state of affairs, and that's the assessment. That's the assessment of the of where the product of this blog and vlog thus far. Okay, thank you for listening. If you still are, I I, I really think this is designed for. There are a few there are a few readers and listeners that have a pretty intense interest in what I'm doing, so this is really for them. Okay, thank you.